In Shea Stadium last week, New York's Richard Todd found rookie wide receiver Wesley Walker for two big plays. One of the big plays turned into a fumble, one of 4 turnovers for the Jets. The other big play was the touchdown, which put New York ahead with less than 2 minutes left to play. With more than 21 yards per catch, Wesley Walker has the highest average per reception in the entire NFL. But the Jets could produce only 10 points, and that was not enough to beat Buffalo's top passing combination of Joe Ferguson to Bob Chandler. Chandler has caught 53 passes so far this season, more than any other wide receiver in the NFL. His 53rd came with only 40 seconds left in the game, just in time to beat New York 14-10, giving the Bills a split of the intrastate rivalry and a tie for 4th with the Jets. Meanwhile, in New England, at the other end of the AFC Eastern Division, the Patriots were able to grind out a 2-touchdown lead over the Miami Dolphins. As New England coach Chuck Fairbanks said later, the turning point was the fact that we were able to dominate at the beginning of the game. The Patriots definitely did dominate in the first half, but they were never able to score again. And in the second half, the tide seemed to swing over to the side of the Dolphins. While Steve Grogan threw only 10 passes all day and completed 6, Bob Griese threw 38 and completed 22 for 260 yards and a lovely touchdown pass to Nat Moore, number 89. Unfortunately for Miami, the AFC's number 1 defense held the Dolphins to just 25 yards on the ground. And when the AFC's leading passer tried to win it in the fourth quarter, he was just inches away on several occasions. The Patriots' victory produced euphoria in New England, but only until they discovered what was going on in Baltimore. The Baltimore Colts were considered sure winners against the also-ran Detroit Lions of the NFC Central. But on this most strange Sunday afternoon, the famous scoring machine of Burt Jones was rudely shut down by an inspired Pride of Lions. While the Colts were turning the ball over 5 times, a second-year quarterback from Purdue named Gary Danielson was completing 17 of 32 passes for the Lions. Detroit led 6-3 for most of the fourth quarter. But then with less than 5 minutes left, Burt Jones finally found the way to the end zone. Number 26, Lydell Mitchell, had caught a league-leading 66 passes, had rushed for more than 1,000 yards for the 3rd straight year, and had scored the touchdown, which seemed to wrap up a 10-6 victory for Baltimore. But then with just 9 seconds to play, David Lee's attempt to punt was snuffed by Leonard Thompson, who fielded the bouncing ball and scored the touchdown, which turned what appeared to be a certain Colt victory into a sudden and shocking victory for Detroit. For the Colts, it was a surprising 3rd consecutive loss. But with a win over the New England Patriots this week, the Colts will still be able to capture their 3rd straight division title. In Cleveland, they had to scrape the tarpaulin off the field before the Browns met the Oilers, a team that more resembled bank robbers than football players. The intolerable conditions turned the field into a skating rink where sharp cuts were impossible. Both teams played out this comic opera where mistakes were the rule, not the exception, and extra points were as brutal as a punch in the kisser. Where larger men feared to tread, the Oilers' Billy Johnson, number 84, proved to be Hans Brinker in white skates. And his 72-yard punt return in the third quarter broke the ice and the back of the Cleveland Browns. The Browns' only bright spot in the 19-15 defeat came on a touchdown pass from Terry Luck to Gary Parris. But it was little solace to a team that just 6 weeks ago was number 1 in the AFC Central and seemingly on the way to the playoffs. In Denver, the diehards were decked out in day-glow orange war paint as their Broncos sought their 11th victory in 12 games against the rough, tough San Diego Chargers. Quarterback Craig Morton, number 7, is treated like a member of an endangered species by overprotective Denver fans. This year, Morton does not need much help, and it was his arm and Lonnie Perrin's legs that sent the Broncos off and winging against San Diego. The Broncos' defense was constructed almost top to bottom from the draft. When Denver selected Lewis Wright, number 20, as their number 1 pick 2 years ago, everybody laughed until he displayed his high wire act. The Broncos held a scant 1-point lead until number 80, Rick Upchurch, busted out of the chute and into the end zone. In almost every game the Broncos have won, Upchurch supplied the key play. Against the Chargers, he did it once more, and Denver won 17-9. The Broncos have clinched the home field advantage in the playoffs, and it might well prove the decisive edge if they meet the only team to defeat them this season, the wild and woolly wild card team, the Oakland Raiders. If Minnesota hoped to avenge the savage thrashing the Raiders handed them in Super Bowl XI, they literally fumbled the chance. In all, the Vikings committed 7 turnovers, and an old nemesis from Pasadena returned to haunt them when number 39, Willie Hall, converted 1 fumble into a touchdown. This is not to say that the mean and ornery Raiders were not charitable themselves. In fact, they fumbled 3 times, and number 43, Nate Wright, took one of them for a quick 6. However, the main atrocity committed by the Vikings was letting Cliff Branch, number 21, float free and easy through their pass defense. Branch, who was not a factor in the Raiders' Super Bowl victory, caught 2 touchdowns from gimpy-legged quarterback Snake Stabler. Rookie quarterback Tommy Kramer was rarely able to peer over the redwood-sized Raider front 4, led by John Matusak, number 72. A Kramer touchdown pass to Sammy White salvaged some dignity in their 35-13 defeat. The Chicago Bears are steaming toward a playoff spot, their first since way back in 1963. But despite their Super Bowl aspirations, there still are a few bugs in the Bears system. However, despite occasional lapses, Chicago's young and improving offensive team knows its way to the end zone. Last Sunday against Green Bay, the Bears scored 3 times, first on a pass to wide receiver James Scott. But Green Bay hung tough. So in period 4, number 69 guard Reeve Sori led the franchise around the corner for the clincher. Walter Payton needs 199 yards this week to surpass O.J. Simpson's single-season rushing mark. More importantly, the Bears can clinch a playoff spot with a win. Hang on, Bear fans, you're almost home. Last week, the Seattle Seahawks were away from home, and the Kansas City Chiefs went out of their way to make them feel unwelcome. "102 yards out of their way, as a matter of fact. That's how far Kansas City safety man Gary Barbaro traveled with this ill-advised Jim Zorn pass. The Chiefs rolled up the welcome mat on offense, too. Quarterback Mike Livingston collaborated with tight end Walter White for 30 yards and a score as Kansas City rolled up 21 first-quarter points. But 21 would not be enough. The spunky young Seahawks countered with 5 first-half touchdowns, such as this Jim Zorn to Sherman Smith hookup for 35. Seattle's offense is strictly big league. Combine their 4 touchdowns with the one scored by Seahawk defensive back Dave Brown, number 22, and it adds up to win number 4 for the surprise team from the Pacific Northwest. Win or lose this week, it's been a most successful season for Seattle. The Cincinnati Bengals, a championship-caliber fighter with a glass jaw that in recent years hasn't known much big-game success. Last week, however, it was the Pittsburgh Steelers who hit the canvas. Pittsburgh had won the last 6 bouts between these two clubs. Last week, however, Cincinnati chased the beleaguered Steelers all over the ring. Then when Terry Bradshaw escaped with his life, the Bengals exacted a toll on his unsuspecting receivers. What their intimidation lacked in subtlety, their secondary made up for in daring, snatching one of Bradshaw's desperation aerials for 6 points. Offense joined defense in winning alliance. Kenny Anderson landed 2 big haymakers. One to Billy Brooks that staggered the champs early. Then the finisher to Ivy Leaguer Pat McInally that put Pittsburgh down for the count. At midseason, the Bengals looked like 1977's big disappointment. Now, with 1 game left, the Bengals can unseat Pittsburgh as AFC Central Division champions. If only that glass jaw doesn't get hit. Locked in winter's icy grip, the city of St. Louis and Bush Memorial Stadium seemed an unlikely spot for the arthritic Washington Redskins to be spending the weekend. Still, the Never Say Die old-timers were out in the cold to try and eliminate the St. Louis Cardinals from playoff contention. On the frozen tundra, number 21 Terry Metcalf could only ad-lib as the St. Louis offense moved in fits and starts. Meanwhile, Washington surprised everyone by starting Billy Kilmer at quarterback for the first time in 8 weeks. Kilmer directed an offense that went slip-sliding upfield with rookie Clarence Harmon, number 38. Unfazed by the dreadful conditions, Kilmer once again proved to be the patron saint of lost Redskin causes. Calvin Hill's touchdown was one of 14 Kilmer completions, giving Washington the lead and making head coach George Allen look like a genius for once again resurrecting Billy the Kid in a must game. Finally, in the fourth quarter, number 17 Jim Hart kicked the Cardinals' big play offense into high gear. Terry Metcalf raced 68 yards, and St. Louis bombing runs threatened to snatch back Washington's hard-earned advantage. But as always, those old Redskin dogs refused to die. Eddie Brown's interception sealed Washington's 26-20 victory and wiped out Cardinal playoff hopes. The amazing Redskins still have a prayer, but only a faint one. Still, that is more than can be said for either the New York Giants or the Philadelphia Eagles, who met last week with nothing at stake but pride. Of course, pride can be aided and abetted by flat-out speed like that possessed by Philadelphia's Wilbert Montgomery, number 31. The rookie from Abilene Christian had set an all-time collegiate record with 79 career touchdowns. Now the Eagles toasted his first in the NFL. Montgomery's 99-yard arrival did wonders for the bruised Eagles' psyche, battered and beaten through a season of near misses. Now, instead of waiting for a new way to lose, they were ready to take a chance on victory. Quarterback Ron Jaworski bootlegged home on fourth down with 25 seconds remaining, and the wind-starved Eagles savored sweet victory, 17-14. Out in Los Angeles, number 10 Steve Bartkowski and the Atlanta Falcons had to settle for the consolation prize. Alfred Jenkins' picturesque 73-yard touchdown grab was aesthetically pleasing, but pointless because it came at the end of a day on which the Rams dominated from the outset behind clever Patrick Hayden, number 11. Number 22, John Cappelletti, proved Los Angeles could win with style as they buried Atlanta 23-7. While the Rams build toward the playoffs, others are on the road to nowhere. Last week, the NFL's most notable nowhere man was John McKay, coach of the infamous Tampa Bay Buccaneers, losers of 26 consecutive games. But in the Superdome against the horrified New Orleans Saints, the inevitable finally happened. The Bucs intercepted 3 Saint passes for TDs, including one in the New Orleans end zone by number 72, Greg Johnson. And Tampa Bay tasted the fruits of victory for the first time in its history. Was it so unusual that the boys had no idea how to act? When something is so long awaited, it deserves to be celebrated right. Not once, but several times. So the Bucs followed the NFL's longest losing streak with history's most complex post-touchdown ceremony. It was all great fun, and who's to say it won't happen again at least once sometime in the next 26 games.